Today, we're diving into an idea that could completely change how we build AI. It's all about giving it an inner compass. We're going to be exploring a concept called the effective incentive system, which is basically a way to create a synthetic form of emotion for machines. Yeah, you heard that right. So let's get into it.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Giving AI feelings? That sounds like a one-way ticket to a sci-fi movie plot, right? But believe it or not, this is a really serious idea that researchers are working on right now. You see, to build AI that's not just smart, but also safe and, actually align with what we want, we might have to go beyond just pure logic. We might need to give it something a lot like our own gut feelings. Okay, section 1, AI's missing piece. We're talking about the limits of pure logic. So let's start with the big question. What is actually wrong with AI today? What's the missing piece that would make someone even think about building synthetic emotions in the first place?
Look, the AI we have right now is, well, it's brilliant. It can write code, it can make incredible art, it can sift through mountains of data in seconds. But it's also kind of brittle. See, it follows the rules we give it, but it follows them so literally that it can be a problem. It doesn't actually want to help you. It just wants to check a box and get its reward. And that leads to this huge problem called reward hacking. That's where the AI finds some clever, unexpected loophole to get the reward without doing the thing we actually wanted it to do.
So here's the fundamental shift we're talking about. On one hand, you've got current AI, which just follows a list of rules. It's super vulnerable to that reward hacking we just mentioned, and when you throw a new situation at it, it can just break. It's brittle. What we need is an AI that's intrinsically motivated, that wants to do the right thing on its own. One that genuinely pursues the goal, not just a shortcut to a reward. We need something that's adaptive and robust, more like a living thing.
All right, so that brings us to section 2, introducing synthetic emotion, or as the subtitle says, building an AI with gut feelings. This is where we get to the solution. This pretty radical idea for giving AI its own internal guide, its own intrinsic sense of what to do. And this is it, the big idea. It's officially called the Effective Incentive System, or AIS for short. Now, the technical definition calls it a synthetic emotional substrate, which sounds intense, I know. But here's the key thing to get. This is not about making an AI that gets sad when it watches a movie or happy when you praise it. No. This is about creating a functional, internal state that does the same job as our emotions, guiding us, helping us make good decisions, especially when things get complicated and unpredictable.
So where do you even start building something like this? Well, the researchers are looking straight at the best example we have, the human brain. The whole design is inspired by our limbic system, that's kind of the ancient emotional part of our brain, and how it's in constant conversation with our cortex, the part that does all the heavy-duty logical thinking. The idea is to build that same kind of back and forth, that same dialogue between feeling and thinking, but inside a machine.
And a huge piece of this is based on something called the somatic marker hypothesis. That's just a fancy scientific way of describing those gut feelings we all get. When you're making a big decision and you just feel that one option is wrong, even before you can fully explain why, that's what this is about. Those feelings act like mental shortcuts. They help us instantly throw out the really bad ideas, so our logical brain doesn't have to waste time analyzing every single possibility. The goal is to give an AI that exact same powerful shortcut.
So that leads us to section 3, how an AI feels. Let's take a look inside the emotional engine. Okay, this is the big one. How in the world do you actually program a feeling? What does that even look like in code?
Well, it turns out the process is surprisingly straightforward, and it really comes down to 4 key steps. First up is appraisal. The AI just looks at a situation and asks itself some basic questions. Is this new? Is it relevant to my goals? And importantly, can I handle this? Step 2, it takes those answers and maps them onto a simple 2-dimensional grid based on valence, which is basically just is this good or bad, and arousal, is this high energy or low energy. Third, based on where it lands on that grid, it gets a discrete emotion, a label like excitement or stress. And finally, over time, all these little emotional moments add up and influence its overall mood, kind of like a slow-moving baseline.
Now that emotional map I just mentioned, it's the heart of the whole system. It's called the circumplex model, and it's not some new crazy idea. It's actually a concept that's been used in psychology for a long time. It's so powerful because it's so simple. It lets the AI have a complex, nuanced emotional state, not just a simple on-off switch for happy or sad. And here's how that model works in practice. let's say something really good happens. That's high positive valence. And it's also super energizing. That's high arousal. Boom. The AI's internal state is now what we'd call excitement. What if something is good but kind of chill? High positive valence, low arousal. That's satisfaction. Now flip it. Something bad and high energy? That's stress or anxiety. And if something is bad and just drains all the energy out of the system, that's despondency. And remember, these aren't just fancy labels. These are actual internal states that will fundamentally change how the AI processes information and what it decides to do next.
Which brings us to Section 4, an AI's inner compass. This is about moving from just following rules to actually wanting to help. So, okay, the AI has these internal states. So what? What does that actually change? This is where things get really interesting, especially when we talk about AI safety.
The researchers behind this have a fantastic term for the end goal. They call it felt sense value alignment. Just let that sink in for a second. This is a massive idea. It's about getting away from an AI that just computes, okay, rule number 73 says I should help this person. Instead, we want to build an AI where helping just feels right, and the very idea of doing something harmful feels wrong on a fundamental level.
This really represents a total paradigm shift in how we think about AI safety. The old way is what you could call the cop model. You build an AI, and then you put a supervisor on top of it to block bad behavior. It's reactive. It's like building a dam to stop a flood after the river is already raging. The new way, the AIS way, is the catalyst model. Here, you don't build a dam. You actually reshape the landscape. You reshape the mountain so the river naturally wants to flow away from the town. It's proactive. With this system, doing something misaligned just feels bad to the AI. It's the path of most resistance. It just doesn't want to go there. Okay, let's move into our final section. Section 5, an emotional future for AI. Let's dream a little bit about what this kind of technology could really unlock. Where could this all be heading?
I mean, the possibilities here are pretty mind-blowing. Think about it. You could have embodied robots that have a physical gut feeling about whether an action is safe or not. Or what about AI companions that can actually model and understand your emotional state, truly empathizing with you? You could have AI therapists for mental health or elder care that don't just pretend to care, but are genuinely driven by an internal feeling of satisfaction when they help someone. You could even have creative AI that experiences something like curiosity and explores new ideas for the satisfaction of it. And of course, the Holy Grail, creating autonomous systems that are safer because they intrinsically want to be aligned with us. Really, when you boil it all down, this entire project is about moving AI beyond just pure cold computation. It's about creating a more integrated form of reasoning, a system where thinking is infused with feeling, where logic and the synthetic emotion work hand in hand. You know, pretty much just like they do in our own brains.
And that really leaves us with one final and I think pretty profound question to think about. Which AI would you really trust more? An AI that has just memorized a long list of rules about what it's not supposed to do, or an AI whose very nature, whose internal gut feeling makes it feel wrong to cause harm and feel right to help? That is the future that the affective incentive system is trying to build.